Hi and welcome to this video that will guide you through applying your product. When you want to strengthen or extend your natural nails, it's crucial for durability that the nail shape is built correctly. Imagine the nail as a bridge. If the bridge can handle the weight it needs to bear, it must have strong points to support it. Same for the nail, otherwise it'll break a bit or the product will come off in a short time. To get a full rundown of the theory behind nail construction, it's a good idea to read the section in the theory book about construction. To summarize, there are 3 important rules of thumb. Firstly, shape the nail with a smooth curve from cuticle to tip, and the highest point on this curve is the apex, also known as the nail's strength point. This is crucial for nail strength and should be prioritized during shaping. Apex makes sure that it can handle all the everyday bumps, hits, and strains without breaking. So it's important that you focus on making a nice arch with the apex, which ensures that your nail has strength. Secondly, it's important to focus on filing the undersides of the nail, lower arches, to file them evenly to support the nail and withstand the impact. Undersides of nail must not be curved, nor should they have a bend or point upwards or downwards. You should ideally align horizontally with the natural nail to provide the best balance for the nail. Thirdly, it's important to evenly place the product over the entire nail. There shouldn't be a collection of products on one side but not on the right side, and there shouldn't be a bunch of product on the tip of the nail but not so much on the actual nail bed. As a rule of thumb, there should be a minimum of 1 mm of product over the entire nail to ensure a balanced build-up. And of course, there should be more at the apex and forms the boom, so please don't be too focused on the fact that there's enough on the sides of the nail, because that's where you make it too thin. That actually causes the nail to break, usually right where the natural nail separates from the skin and becomes a free edge. To avoid that, it's crucial for a good and lasting outcome that you're comfortable following our instructions and take care to perform all steps correctly. And if you should have doubts or need guidance, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Enjoy yourself to the fullest. The first thing you gotta do when you're gonna extend with classic tips is to find the right size tips. I reckon it's easiest to take it one finger at a time and basically just guess my way to which size would fit best for this particular lock. My initial estimation for this finger is a size that is evidently larger than what is appropriate. You can see that the sides of the tip go further out than the sides of my natural nose. Of course, it's not ideal and looks pretty unprofessional compared to my finger. My next get is a tip that is clearly renewable. Certainly, you can observe that the tip does not even adequately cover my natural nail. You can also see it by turning the nail in towards yourself. That way you get a good overview of the nail's C-curve, meaning the curve that your natural nail and the tip create. It is crucially important that the C-curve of the tip also somewhat aligns with the natural C-curve of your own nails. Otherwise, your thong will press or pull on your natural butt shape, and that can make it uncomfortable to wear in the lower back. The ultimate estimation on a polish that corresponds to my natural nail, it is this particular one. As you can clearly see, it fits perfectly on both sides of my nail, without a shadow of a doubt. There is absolutely no room for uncertainty. At the same time, when I turn it inward, you can see that the C-curves are hating on each other. It is also important to note that if you observe the tip and nail from above, they appear to be proportionate to each other, so it will look natural when you're done building your nail. A little tip is to write down the numbers on the tips you choose for your nails. That means that next time you can just look at the list you've made and take the tips that you know fit in advance. It is possible that you may come across some tips that are a perfect fit with your natural nail C-curve, but you could consider going just 0.5 millimeter beyond the edge of your own natural nail. In that situation, it is completely acceptable to simply take the tip and file a small amount on the side of this tip in order to make it fit both the C-curve of the nail and fit on both sides of the natural nail. A good tip is also to file your own natural nail so that it matches the shape of this little indentation in the tip. It's because it helps glue the tip later, and prevents dirt and grime from getting stuck in the small gap that would otherwise be present. It's important that you do an efficient prep. Prep is actually a preparation of the natural nail and is essential for your product to last. If you want to see a complete rundown of how to make a perfect prep, go check out our video guide or look it up on page 44 in your theory book, where there's a detailed step-by-step guide. It's important that the tips are clean and dry before you put them on. So therefore, take a streak-free wipe, saturate with cleaner, and wipe off to ensure no dirt or dust remains. When the weather is pleasant and there is no moisture, you can apply glue inside the small indentation that is located in the tip. And it's important to make sure you apply plenty of glue so you don't get any air bubbles when you put the tip on the nail. It is also important that you do this a little bit quickly because the paint is a second wine, which means it dries relatively quickly. As you can see, I'm attaching the tip securely to the natural nail down in this little indentation of the tip. And I make sure that there are no air bubbles where the tip and the natural nail meet. Hold on tight to the tip until you can feel that it's securely in place and dry. You do the same thing in the same manner with the remaining nails. The nail can be built up, but the length and shape of the tip as well as the transition to the natural nail must be perfected. You do that by initially using your tip cutter to trim the most severe part of the tip's length. After you have trimmed the tip to a suitable length, grab your nail file with grit 100, 180 and carefully shape the tip, ensuring it is smooth and even. Take your time and be gentle to achieve the desired shape and finish. The next thing you need to do is actually one of the most crucial steps. It is about blending the tip into the natural nail so that you can hardly perceive that you actually have a tip on. You can do that either by using a manual nail file, preferably with a grit of 100, 180, where you use the 180 side. Or you can smooth the transition with an electric nail file and a sanding roll. I'm using a sanding roller with grit 180 here, but if you wanted to go a bit slower, you can also use a sanding roller with grit 320. It all depends on what you feel most comfortable with. What you do is, you take your file and file on top of the tip, and only on top of the tip, without hitting the natural nail. Because in that way you file the tip down so you can achieve this really nice and smooth transition to the natural nail surface. When you feel like you've filed the transition on all your nails completely naturally, you take a lint-free wipe with cleaner and wipe away dirt and dust. When you apply base coat, it's important that you do it in a pretty thin layer. So when you grab your brush, go ahead and scrape off the excess on one side and the other side, and pick up a little bead of product. Next, you position your brush in the center of the nail plate, right up around the cuticle, and apply a gentle pressure to ensure that the bristles fan out into a stunning formation. Then you apply the base coat towards the cuticle area, as far up as possible without touching the skin, dabbing it gently to avoid contact with the skin. Continue all the way down the nail plate, meaning really work the base coat in order to ensure that all the imperfections in the nail are completely covered and concealed. If you get a product on your skin, it's important that you remove it as soon as possible. You remove it best by, for example, to take a rose stick or a microwave stick and immerse it into your cleaner solution. Then you carefully eliminate the surplus product from the skin surface. Once you're happy with the application of your product, all nails need to cure for 60 seconds in the UV lamp. If you have our home lamp, then be aware that all the nails should stay within the metal plate. After curing your product for 60 seconds under the UV lamp, a thin, sticky layer will form on top of the nail. It's normal, must not be removed. It's called a plug-in, doctors. There so that the next layer can adhere better. When you're working with build gel, it's important to prep your brush. You do that by taking some builder gel on the brush, and then on the lid of your builder gel, you massage the builder gel into the bristles of the brush to make sure that all bristles are covered. Now it is time to construct the shape of the number. You accomplish this by applying a small amount of product onto your brush and positioning it in the center of the nail, directly around the cuticle area. You got to imagine like you're going to press this bead up against the cuticle without actually touching the skin, you know? Then you can remove the additional product growth from the area near the base of the nail and spread it evenly over the remaining part of the nail by moving slowly and smoothly towards the tip of the nail, as well as onto the small spray you created earlier. It's important that you make sure that the structure of the nail has the correct shape and the correct points of strength. You can accomplish this, for instance, by inverting your fingers, thus enabling the product to be pulled downwards towards the center and shape the apex, which is also the point of strength for the nail. If you do not think that apex stands out on its own, you could potentially utilize a nail art brush or simply this oval brush to pull down towards the center and thus create this distinctive apex effect that will enhance your overall nail design. Remember, you can always read more about the proper structure and key points from page 11 in our theory book for additional information. If you get a product on your skin, it's important that you remove it as soon as possible. You remove it best by, for example, to take a rose stick or a microwave stick and immerse it into your cleaner solution. Then you gently create the excess product from the head. To make sure that the shape you've just built doesn't slide down into the cuticle or lose its form, you can use our quick fix program. You simply insert your hand into the UV lamp and press the button labeled 10-second flash cure. Following that, the lamp will proceed to do 5 quick blinks, ensuring that your chili stays put while you build the remaining nails for construction. Once you are content with the application of your product, all nails must be allowed to cure for a duration of 60 seconds in the UV lamp in order to achieve optimal results. Once your nails have fully cured, you need to remove that sticky layer using a lint-free wipe saturated with cleaner to simply wipe the nails clean. The next step you have to take is to submit the form in order to finalize your structure. It is not always that you achieve the perfect shape right away, so it is nice to have the option to file afterwards and make necessary adjustments. When you shape the nail, you can either do it with a manual grid 180 file or an electric nail file. When using an electric nail file, you can use a sanding roller with grid 180 or any other optional bit, for example. A helpful tip when shaping your nail is to avoid filing directly on the apex, which means not filing in the middle of the nail on top of that curve. Of course, that's because the top of the arch should be where there is the most product. So file instead of towards the edges of the nail, both on one side and on the other side, and then try to angle your file in such a way that you get a nice transition to the natural nail down by the cuticle. And then angle it outwards towards the tip of the nail so you can create a truly beautiful point at the end and not have a thick nail tip, which would detract from the overall elegance of the manicure. When you think you've achieved ideal structure, you can buff the nail with a 100 and 180 grit buffer. When you've filed the nail into the perfect shape, All you really need to do is remove the dust by taking a lint-free wipe, saturated with cleaner, and then thoroughly wipe the nail clean. If you don't want to finish with gel polish color, you can skip to step 13. We are about to apply the initial coat of gel polish color now. The color pigments in gel polish have the tendency to settle at the bottom over time, so it is important that you mix the color thoroughly. The most effective method to mix your gel polish color is by flipping the bottom of the bottle, placing it between two flat hands, and then rolling the bottle back and forth. That way you can avoid getting air bubbles in your gel polish. When you have mixed your colors, you dip the brush into the bottle and wipe off most of the gel polish on the inside of the bottle neck to prevent air bubbles. Next, you position your brush in the center of the nail plate, right up around the cuticle, and apply a slight pressure to ensure that the bristles disperse and form a gorgeous fan shape. Then you make sure to brush the bristles down towards the cuticle as far as you possibly can, without, of course, touching the skin. Once you have gotten the color up towards the cuticle, with a clean edge without touching the skin, you then drag the brush down along the nail to paint the rest of the nail bed. If you are experiencing difficulty creating a highly precise color boundary directly adjacent to the cuticle, you can attempt utilizing a slender nail art brush to gently extend the color slightly higher. Again, it's important to remember that you always have to seal the free comb. Your gel polish doesn't need to be fully opaque in the first coat. You see, it needs to be spread so thin that it doesn't cover completely. If you use a full coverage gel polish, not a transparent one, it will be opaque with the second coat. Otherwise, you can always add a third layer or a fourth layer. Once you're happy with the application of your product, all nails need to cure for 60 seconds in the UV lamp. If you possess our home lamp, then please be mindful that all of the bulbs need to remain within the metal plate. Once you've cured the first layer of paint, there will again be this quite thin, sticky layer called a tack coat. It still can't be removed because it has the effect that the next layer will adhere better. Apply a second layer of gel polish color, same way as we just did with first layer. Now it's time to apply the top coat, the final layer before the new oil. Top coat is applied in the exact same way as we just did with both layers of gel polish. So it's basically just about making sure that the top coat hits all the places where there is color, you know. It's also important that you still remember to seal the free edge. After confirming top coat coverage, cure the color in UV lamp for 60 seconds to complete the process. Our top coat is a no-wipe top coat, which means that it doesn't have that sticky layer, you know, that sticks to your clothes when it's done curing. You finish your nail treatment by going out and washing your hands, and finally applying nail oil. Nail oil is extremely important for good durability, because any nail will break or split if it's too dry. Imagine, if you will, that the nail is a bit like a branch. If you try to bend a branch and it's completely dry, it'll actually just snap pretty easily. If, on the other hand, the branch is well moistened, it will instead just bend instead of breaking when you try to break it. The same goes for the nail, so it's always important to be efficient when using nail polish. You're done with your nails now, and you did an awesome job. Remember, if you encounter any challenges or have any questions along the way, feel free to reach out to us at any time. We can provide the best advice and guidance possible.